All right, so today we're going to build on our addition and our subtraction of integers, and we're doing multiplication and division. So by the end, you should be able to confidently say, at least a 1 or a 2 out of 3 of I can multiply and divide integers. You have some clue of what's going on and you know how to use the strategy well, and it's just making sure you have that practice to get you going and master it. All right, so expectations, remember to pause. Today has a bunch of practice, so you can pause after each one if you want, or do them all and then hit play. I'll do one at a time, so you can pause one at a time. And just remember, make sure you're focusing and you're writing that down, but you're not just skimming, you're listening to what I'm saying so that you can get all my little tips and tricks. All right, so minimize this. Multiply and divide integers, we're on page 18. Okay. All right, so this is what our notes look like so far. We have a title, we have our learning target, and yes, draw Mickey Mouse, draw Mickey Mouse, draw Mickey Mouse, draw Mickey Mouse, draw Mickey Mouse. Okay, and then under that, we're gonna have a little bit of room to write underneath like signs and different signs. Just like before, there's 2 different cases. So when we were doing addition with big numbers, there were 2 different cases. So same thing, we have 1 case with like signs, 1 case with different signs, and then we have 10 practice. So that is the bottom of my page. I made 2 columns, 1 through 5, 6 through 10. We're gonna have 10 practice problems. So with like signs, if I'm going to multiply 2 numbers, multiplying numbers, the answer is called a product. So the product of multiplying, or the quotient for division, of 2 integers with like signs is positive. Positive, that's the big takeaway. It is positive. So in examples, if I do 2 multiplied by 3. I have 2 groups of 3. That would be 6. If I have negative 2 groups of negative 3, that would also be positive 6. So notice 2 and 3 are both positive. Their product is positive. Negative 2 and negative 3 are both negative. They have that like sign, and their product is also positive. So then different signs, so instead of this, the product of 2 integers with different signs is not positive but negative. Perfect. So the product of 2 integers with like signs is positive, with different signs will be negative. So what if I had a negative 2 and the positive 3? Negative 2 groups of positive 3 would get me a negative 6. Positive 2 groups of negative 3 would also get me a negative 6. And now we're going to do some practice. And I also want to show you how we would use Mickey Mouse on these. So if I was given this question, I would be, positive times a positive is a positive. You've done that for ages. Now, what if I have 2 negatives? So I'm going to cover up 2 negatives because I have a negative and a negative. So cover up, cover up. What sign is left over? A positive. That tells me the answer has to be positive. Over here, I have 1 negative and 1 positive. So my answer must be negative because that's what's left over. And on here, I have a positive and a negative. So the answer must be is negative. So using that, I'm going to pause the video and write down all 10 questions. Pause here so you can write down all the questions. I'm going to reveal the answers one at a time. I'll start out with more guidance on them for the beginning couple using the Mickey Mouse, and then after that, I'll just write down the answer, and then you can resume your play. Okay, so pausing here for number 1. So number 1 is negative 5 times negative 6. And forget about the negatives. Just do 5 times 6. So that should get you 30. Now I want to figure out what sign is this. Is it positive? Is it negative? So like signs, they're both negatives. So that like sign tells me it's going to be a positive 30. If you want to use the Mickey Mouse, notice that I have a negative and a negative. So if I shade those out, what sign is left over? A positive. So this should be a positive. All right, pause here for number 2. Again, ignore the positives, ignore the negatives. What's 3 times 4? 12. So I know the answer will be a 12. Is it positive or is it negative though? They're different signs because one's positive and one's negative. Different signs. The product is negative. And if I use my Mickey Mouse, I have a positive and I have a negative, and the spot left over is the negative. So this is a negative 12. All right, pause here for number 3. You should end up with a negative 28. Pause here for number 4. 8 divided by negative 4. So forget about the signs. It's just 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Again, the signs are different, so this should be a negative 2. And I'm going to box all these answers. Pause here for 5. Should be a positive 5. Pause here for 6. Remember, fractions mean division. So 6 and 8, you're both dividing. So what's negative 56 divided by 8? If you wanted to do that long division style, it would be 56 divided by 8, like that. The answer should be 7, and because of the same sign, it is a positive 7. Pause here for number 7. It should be a negative 5. Pause here for 8. Should be a negative 11. Pause here for 9. Should be a positive 9, which is a fun coincidence. And then number 10 should be a negative 35. If you were stuck on any one of these, go back. Make sure that you're remembering like signs. Their product will be positive or their quotient. For different signs, the quotient or product will be negative. And if it helps, try the Mickey Mouse out. Figure out if I cover them up, what do I get? If you're forgetting the numbers and getting the numbers incorrect, then make sure you're doing practice times tables. There should be that under our pre-skills on our learning map. So make sure that you are doing all that. All right, and can you confidently say that you can multiply and divide integers? You should already know how to multiply and divide whole numbers, so now we're adding in the negative piece to it. Can you do it with some negatives thrown in there? All right, have a great day. This is a really short video.